I'm Miss Denise, and I'd like to read to you a book called You Should Meet Mae Jemison. And I want to tell you that this is about a real person. And it's a chapter book. Have you ever looked up at the stars and wanted to fly? Have you dreamed of being an astronaut and blasting off into space? Or of being a dancer? Or being a doctor who brings medical care to people around the world? If you've ever dreamed of any of those things, you should meet Mae Jemison. Mae is the first African American woman to become an astronaut, but she's much more than that. Mae is also a scientist, a dancer, and she's a doctor, an author, and a teacher. Today, she's working to find ways for humans to travel beyond our solar system. Mae followed her dreams, all of them. Once you meet her, you'll know you can follow yours too. Chapter 1, Early Dreams. Mae was born in Decatur, Alabama on October 17, 1956. She has 2 older siblings, a sister and a brother. Her father was a carpenter, and her mother taught elementary school. When Mae was 3 years old, her family moved from Alabama to Chicago. She thinks of Chicago as her hometown. Mae always loved science. When her kindergarten teacher asked her what she wanted to be when she grew up, Mae said, "A scientist." Many people at the time didn't think it was possible for an African American girl to be a scientist. Women were more likely to be teachers and nurses than scientists. "Don't you mean a nurse?" the teacher said. "No, I mean a scientist," said Mae. Other teachers tried to discourage Mae too. She wouldn't let them. She never stopped believing in herself. She stood strong in the face of other people's questions. At home, Mae was encouraged to be anything she wanted to be. "My parents were the best scientists I knew because they were always asking questions," she said when she was a grown-up. Mae considered herself a busybody. She liked to get involved with her sisters' and brothers' science projects. Once she got a splinter in her thumb. Soon there was pus. Other kids might have been grossed out and just wanted it to go away, but not Mae. Mae wanted to know exactly what the pus was and where it came from. So she did a scientific study of pus to learn how it fights infection to help our bodies heal. Mae's family talked about many things around the dinner table, including the Civil Rights Movement. The Civil Rights Movement was a mass popular movement to secure equal access to and opportunities for the basic privileges and rights of a U.S. citizen for African Americans. There were sometimes riots, and one time National Guard soldiers came to Chicago to keep the peace. Mae was scared, but she promised herself that she wouldn't let fear keep her from doing what she wanted in the world. The library was a place where Mae learned about science. She read all kinds of science books, especially ones about the stars. Mae also followed the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, that's NASA, space programs in the newspapers. She knew all about the astronauts and their missions. "Growing up, I always assumed I would go into space," Mae said when she was older. "I remember being really irritated that there were no women astronauts." Mae was inspired by the character Uhura, a female officer on the television show Star Trek. Uhura was played by the actress Nichelle Nichols. Eventually, Mae got to meet Nichelle. Mae believes that the best scientists are not only logical but creative too. She took all kinds of dance lessons growing up: ballet, jazz, modern, African, even Japanese. She wanted to be a professional dancer. She also designed and made clothes for her dolls, acted in school plays, took art classes, but science was always Mae's first love. She graduated high school at 16 and won a scholarship to Stanford University to study engineering. Chapter 2, Dreams on Earth. At Stanford University in California, May majored in chemical engineering. Biochemical engineering was her focus. A biochemical engineer creates things to make medical care better. May also majored in African and Afro-American history. And just like when she was younger, May combined art and creativity with science. May created dance routines, acted in plays, and was president of the Black Student Union. She also learned to speak Swahili, an African language. In college, May decided that she wanted to be a medical doctor. When she graduated from Stanford, she moved to New York City to go to Cornell University Medical College. May studied hard, but she also made time for fun. She took dance lessons, and she went to the theater with friends. During her summer breaks, May traveled to Kenya and Cuba to learn about medical care in other countries, especially for poor people. She also worked in Thailand at a camp for refugees, people who have been driven away from their homes by war. At first, May didn't want to be the kind of doctor who sees patients. She wanted to be the kind of doctor who does research. But working in other countries made her interested in bringing medicine to people in poor areas around the world. After she became a doctor, May volunteered for the Peace Corps. The Peace Corps is made up of Americans who bring things such as medical care, clean water, and education to people in underdeveloped countries. As a doctor for the Peace Corps, May went to Sierra Leone and Liberia, 2 countries in West Africa. After 2.5 years in Africa, May returned to California to work as a doctor. It was then that she remembered an early dream, a dream to fly into space. She learned that NASA was accepting applications for the astronaut program. May applied. People who want to be astronauts must have college degrees in science, math, or engineering. May's application stood out. NASA asked her to travel to the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas for interviews and physical tests. May must have shown them how smart and strong she was, because in June of 1987, NASA asked her to be an astronaut candidate. She was one of 15 chosen out of a group of 2,000 people. May's early dream was coming true. She was on her way to becoming an astronaut. Chapter 3, Dreams About Space. May was chosen by NASA in 1987, but she wasn't an astronaut yet. She was an astronaut candidate. A candidate is someone who is applying for a particular job. Astronaut candidates have to take classes and work hard to learn new things before they are given the title astronaut. One thing May had to learn before she could go into space was what it was like to be weightless. Astronauts call this microgravity. Gravity is the force that keeps humans and everything else from floating off the Earth and into space. But in space, you only feel a tiny amount of gravity's pull. Astronauts need to be able to do their jobs while they are weightless. One way they learn how to do that is by flying in a special airplane. The plane makes many people sick to their stomachs. The plane's nickname is called the Vomit Comet. May also needed to learn how to survive in the wilderness and in the water. That was in case her spaceship landed in the wrong place when it came back to Earth. After a year of hard training, May was finally named an astronaut. Not all astronauts fly into space. Many work on Earth, helping the astronauts who are in space. At first, May worked on one of NASA's astronaut scientists on Earth. But what she really wanted to do was to blast off into space herself. and she did, as a science mission specialist. Science mission specialists perform experiments, among many other jobs in space. Chapter 4, Space. On September 12, 1992, May became the first African American woman to fly into space. The first white American woman to fly into space, Sally Ride, had done so in June of 1983. The first African American male astronaut, Guion Bluford, had gone into space 2 months later in August 1983. Now May was making history by being both a woman and an African American. May flew on the space shuttle Endeavour. She spent about 8 days in space and completed almost 127 orbits of the Earth. In that time, she traveled more than 3 million miles. May wanted to celebrate art and creativity in space. Among other items, she brought a poster of an African American dancer and a statue made by a women's group in West Africa onto the shuttle. In orbit, the astronauts did experiments. May wanted to know why some people get sick to their stomachs in space and how to make them feel better. May also wanted to learn about how tadpoles grow when they are weightless. May discovered tadpoles grew just like they do in Earth's gravity. When we got back to Earth, the tadpoles were right on track, May told a reporter after her mission. The tadpoles had turned into frogs, just like they were supposed to. May was never afraid in space. I was very excited and happy, she said. She remembered being a young girl who loved to stare up at the stars. The first thing I saw from space was Chicago, my hometown. Looking out the window of that space shuttle, I thought if that little girl growing up in Chicago could see her older self now, she would have a huge grin on her face. The flight made May famous. She realized she could use her fame to talk about how important it is to take care of the planet. She also wanted people of all races to know they could be part of the scientific world. Chapter 5, Life After Space. After flying into space, May decided to leave NASA and do other things. She started a company that brings technology and better medical care to people in poor countries. She also became an actress when she appeared on the TV show Star Trek: The Next Generation. Star Trek was one of May's favorite TV shows when she was young. Getting kids involved in science was also something May wanted to do. She started a camp for students who want to become scientists. The camp, called The Earth We Share, welcomes young scientists from all over the world. These campers get to do more than hike or sleep in a tent. They use their imaginations and plan amazing things, such as a space mission to Mars. Most recently, May started the 100-year Starship project. The project's goal is to find a way to bring humans to another solar system within the next 100 years. A solar system is a group of planets that orbit around a star. When planets orbit around a star, the star is called a sun. Our solar system is very far away from any other solar system. Today, it would take us 70,000 years to travel to another solar system. The 100-year Starship program will have to create everything from new kinds of energy to new kinds of filters that will keep air and water clean. A starship might need a garden for fresh fruits and vegetables, and things to help the astronauts survive on a new planet. Most of all, May wants to make sure that all kinds of people, not just Americans and not just doctors, will have a chance to be involved. May always believed in following her dreams, and she never let people tell her she couldn't. She also refused to be any one thing, a scientist or an artist. a doctor, or a dancer. May believed she could do anything, and she did. Now that you've met May Jemison, don't you think you can do the same thing? Reach for the stars and more. And that's the end. Thanks for reading along with me.